Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Force Feedback. Today's featured title is Overwatch. Our special guests today are Night Viper 122 and the Elite Scrub. Yes, they're my sons. Yes, they're going to both longtime Overwatch players, and I think they're going to be able to give us a unique perspective on this exciting title. What's going on, Night Viper?
Hello.
And the Elite Scrub, good evening.
Hello, hello.
All right, so we're talking about Overwatch today. You guys really seem to enjoy that, and they both pressured me and said, "Look, we want to do a podcast, and we both play this game." In fact, Viper, I think you play it on both PlayStation and Xbox.
You would be correct in saying so.
Well, let me start off with just a real quick question then. I mean, is it the same game, one console to another? Is one console better than the other?
Oh, well, that's a loaded question as far as a console battle is concerned. I mean, I'm pretty impartial. I think Xbox is, but I mean, it's whatever. As far as the game itself is concerned, however, I'd say that it's pretty much the exact same game. I did notice that I do get grouped up with like little kids much more on Xbox. I don't really know if that has anything to do with it, but I did notice that. I also noticed that people on PlayStation, whether this is weird or not, they actually tend to play together and use their mics more, which I found interesting. But other than that, same game. It's really no difference between console to console. I just like the controller of PlayStation better, so that's why I try to play it on there more.
Okay, Elite, have you played it on Xbox?
I have, and one thing that I noticed, and I like to use the chat a lot, the quick chat, because, I get very heated when I play this game because I take it very seriously. So when I lose, I try to turn off my mic and keep from being toxic. So what I noticed is that it's extremely hard to use quick chat on Xbox because of where the analog stick is. So in
Yeah,
that aspect, I'd say that PlayStation is better when it comes to team communication. But
I agree.
other
Is
than that,
that
I'd say it's
because
the
of
same.
where the quick chat button is located on the
Yeah,
controller?
the quick chat button is the down arrow key, so you have to lift your thumb off the it's just oddly placed. You have to take your thumb off the analog stick. Where on PlayStation, I can actually just bring my left pointer finger over and just touch it real quick while I'm still actively playing. So you know that's just
Well,
a skill that I picked up. Like I don't know if everybody else does that, but it's definitely a game changer for me in my opinion.
okay. Viper, what is it that you like most about Overwatch? Is it the gameplay, or the characters, or the team play? Which of those three things do you like the most?
Well, I really think that all three of those aspects are what makes Overwatch so great as a game. It really does all three of those things really well. There are so many different characters in the game, and they all play so uniquely. If you're playing the game and you're getting your ass kicked with one character, you could very easily switch to one of 25 characters I think they have now, and get a completely different feel. And depending on what map you're playing and what game mode you're playing, some characters are better than others, and I've said this many times. It's really just one really, really big game of rock, paper, scissors. Um, every character has a unique counter, and you're going to be really good against other characters, and you're just going to get shut down usually by other characters. With that being said, I think the gameplay is tight. I also think that the maps are really unique. Um, it's funny. There's only two real game modes in the game. Well, actually, they've added a few since then, but there's pretty limited in game modes, but you can still have a great time and really just grind this game for hours, as I know Scrub has many a days, and really not get bored. And I can't say the same for really any other first person shooter game. Titanfall, Call of Duty, Battlefield, even. You get bored after an hour or two, but Overwatch kind of just gives you a new feel every time. And unless you're getting heated, you can really play this game forever. It's pretty perpetual, I think, in that regard. But I think the characters are probably my favorite part of it.
Elite, what's your thoughts? Characters, gameplay, or modes or maps, or do you have a different opinion?
I'd have to say, characters and gameplay go hand in hand because this game is unique in the fact that you could pick a different character and have a completely different experience in the same game that you're playing. You could be getting shut down, like Night Viper said, by one character, and then, switch to, anybody, like maybe a healer. Like your team's getting shut down, you guys don't have a healer, you switch to a healer, and the whole game changes. You guys are now running over the other team or whatever. So I say the characters have to be the biggest unique function and my favorite part of this game because of that. The game is easily changed by one or two people working together. The team aspect is always, a given. It's 6v6. If you're running by yourself, you're gonna get, shut down because characters have counters to others. Like for instance, you have like a sniper on your team, right? And they're getting shut down because you have a Genji who is a very he's very agile, can run around the map and get to any spot on the map, any spot. So like they're rushing the snipers, it's just you have a sniper, it's really hard to kill somebody close quarters, somebody who's hopping around like Genji. So they switch to a healer because you don't have a healer, and now I don't know.
Your
It's
team
just
composition is much
it's
better at
super
that point.
important. Yeah.
Well, I want to get into team composition a little bit later in the discussion, but you guys both brought out some good points. So you both are basically in agreement that the character selection is one of the most important parts that makes this a quality game for you.
I think it might actually
Absolutely.
be the most important part of the game. And I just want to interject real quick because Scrub brought up a good point. What makes this game so fun and rewarding is unlike pretty much every game, you don't necessarily have to be doing amazing to feel like you're contributing. In this game, you don't have to be the last guy to get a shot on somebody to get, or like Call of Duty Battlefield, you could walk up. Kill stealing is like really big. I know you rage about it all the time, where you're killing a guy, you do like half of his health of damage, and then somebody walks by, like credit for the kill, and then you're over here like fuck, I got this silly assist over here. Meanwhile, I did all the killing. In Overwatch, you could do 10 damage, or you can do 95 damage. You're getting credit for that elimination, regardless of how
Even
much
do
damage you do.
3.
Yeah, so and I think that's rewarding because you get credit for it, even if you're contributing. So it gives you almost more of a motivation to really help your teammates and work together cooperatively as a team, rather than just go off on your own and just get 800 kills and get kill streaks and whatnot. And whereas being a healer also has its benefit because you can get medals by doing nothing but healing, and even you could get 0 kills and make the leaderboard. And I think that's something that's it's very unique. You probably wouldn't get that. I know you do that in Battlefield where you could get like 800 revives, but it's a lot easier to do that in Overwatch. And I think it's something that makes the game more fun if you're not like the most competitive first-person shooter player around there.
Okay, that seems like a fair response. Elite, what is your least favorite thing about Overwatch? What thing that would you change the most?
I'd have to say team composition because sometimes you get put on a team where you like it's like team composition is really huge. Like if you don't have like a tank to suck up some of the damage that's being thrown out there, you can have a bad time. So I like to pick up the tank because there's only a few tanks and they're pretty
Hold
difficult
on.
to pick. No, let me finish. Now, when you're playing a tank and you have people who are like really good flankers, like Genji or Tracer, who just zip around the map, it's hard because your team's not with you. You're a big target and you just get shut down basically. Or you have like a sniper and then you have those two flankers, or worst comes to worst, you have two snipers. You know what I mean? And
So, well,
you
hold
just feel
on.
like your team's not there, and it almost turns the game into a 3v6, and it's very difficult. And I think that they need to limit that. I mean, the game does tell you when you have too many of the same character, maybe you have too many supports or too many snipers, and it tells you, but people just don't listen to it. And honestly, I think more times than not, it winds up costing you the game.
Well, so what you're saying is that you don't like the matchmaking system when you first get into the game because of how it composes the team. Is that
Yeah.
correct in short?
Well, I
Well,
mean, it's really based on like what your team picks. You know what I mean? It's just human error in my
All right.
opinion.
Well, the question was, what is it that you least like about it? So, we'll go to you, Viper. What's your least favorite thing? What do you dislike about Overwatch that you'd like to see them change?
um, Well, so there are multiple game modes in the game, and one of them being competitive. Now, competitive is kind of its own evil. It's a very serious game mode where wins are very like the ultimate object of the game is to win, and if you don't win, it's very annoying. And what happens is it's 6v6, and if somebody leaves the game mid round, they get disconnected, or something like that, you're man down and somebody cannot join in. So you will be permanently man down in that game mode. And I think that's really annoying because if you get disconnected, or somebody on your team gets disconnected, you are now man down. And at that point, if you leave, you get penalized and potentially suspended or banned from playing competitive. And now, every win or loss you get changes your rank. So if you lose a lot of games, your rank will go down and you won't be able to play with as people who are as competitive as you are. And that could be just because people leave your game and or get DQ'd, and I think that's kind of silly, and I would like for them to change that, or at least put an option where somebody can hop in, mid round, which they do in quick play. So I don't really. There's got to be a reason, I would assume, but that's
Well,
like my biggest pet peeve.
I think that's preventing team stacking. So if you went into a game and everybody is, the competition starts, the round starts, and five people leave, and then five higher level players come into those spots, then it creates an unfair advantage. So I think that there's probably some lock out there to prevent that type of thing from happening. But you're pointing out something that seems to me that would be difficult to deal with in a game where team composition and squad composition is so important.
Right.
Having that missing player is can be devastating.
Right, because I mean the games are, it's 6v6, so it's much smaller than, like a Battlefield or a Call of Duty game. Well, Call of Duty is probably pretty much 6v6, but like Battlefield, for example, you're playing like 16v16. So if one or two people aren't in your game, are you going to notice? Yeah, but it's not going to swing the game. Where if you're man down in Overwatch, now that you could potentially be without a healer or a tank character, and now you're going to get run over, you're going to take the L, and it's going to kill your rank, and it's all because some dude just left, and I think that's unfair. And I would like it to be changed in some way if possible. With that being said, do you want to go over the different character types? Because I think that's important.
Well,
Well,
we will
I
get
wanted
we
to say something. I wanted
hold
to
on,
just.
hold on, guys. First of all, we will get through everything. We have plenty of time, and the questions that I have will give you guys a chance to talk about each individual part of the game. So I know there's stuff that guys want to get to and talk about. You will have an opportunity to get through everything. We got plenty of time here. But before we move on, Elite, now that you heard what Viper had said as some of the things that he didn't like, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would. I agree with the whole competitive aspect where people are leaving in the match, and that really could kill your team. People do leave, but people also get disconnected, and I think that maybe if Blizzard could figure out a way to like distinguish the two, because I know I've been disconnected, and I'm playing Mercy, who's like a pure healer. She doesn't really even supposed to shoot really, like, and I'm disconnected. Your team's, without healing. That's still but I finished and trying to get back on.
All right,
I
Elite, you're
should
breaking up,
probably like
buddy. You're breaking up really bad.
yeah.
Viper, can you try it and see how you're working? Viper, I think we're losing connection here because you guys are both talking like you're in a computer. Are you hearing me the same way?
I can't hear you at all.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I can hear you guys.
Okay, you both are better now. I'm sorry. Now, Elite, we're going to go back to you since you broke up part of the way through there. Okay, go ahead. Try it again. What is it that you would say that you would want to change other than what Viper said?
Can't hear him. I know he's talking, but I can't hear.
You should be able to fill in when people leave in competitive.
Okay.
There should be an option to choose that even to click in a fill in spot. Because that's really just I hate that shit. That should.
Okay. Viper, you touched on this a little earlier about the lack of content, and I'm prefacing that by saying that it's not necessarily maps. So you're saying that there's a limited number of modes, but you still have the ability to play the game for hours because of the diversity in characters. Is that pretty much what you're trying to say?
In a sense, pretty much the game's breaking up into a few game modes. It's a game mode where you pretty much have a point that you have to either capture or defend, and if you capture the point, you then have a payload, which you actually have to either stand on or very close to move, and then it has to get through a series of checkpoints before you get to the final checkpoint where you can win. Now you can prevent the enemy team from moving the payload by simply standing next to it and contesting it. So if like I have three people on my team and you're like one person there, it's not going to move. So it's important to, like you always say, PTO, play the objective. It's very important in this game. There's also another game mode where it's just pretty much just capturing an objective, King of the Hill. So, there'll be one central location that both teams have to fight to capture. So you run in there, you capture it. It's like domination where you got to get it all the way around. It is now your objective, and then you have to hold it you got to get it to 100% while the enemy team is trying to get in there, capture it from you, and then get their end to 100%. And those are the two main game modes that you're going to play in quick play and competitive. And then Overwatch is something really cool. They added arcade mode where they kind of, they'll change they have events that they do, and they'll change the game mode. So they have like 3v3 elimination, 1v1 elimination. They have capture the flag, mystery heroes where it's 6v6 and you don't actually get to pick your hero. And then it's called Total Mayhem, where each character has abilities and super abilities that have a set refill rate. And those are like significantly reduced. They'll gain their ultimate ability much faster. Your health, I think, is amplified as well. And just adding these few things in here and there really makes the game great. Blizzard also does a really good job at continuously throwing out free content. All of their extra stuff is free. They do events, yearly. So they do one for Chinese New Year, Halloween. I think they did one for Christmas, and they'll throw out like extra costumes and stuff to unlock and to strive for. In loot boxes, which are like, every time you level up, you get a loot you get 4 random items that range anywhere from common to, exotic or rare. I know Lead Scrub knows a little bit more about this stuff because he's been playing it longer than I have, but you know, it's one of those games where you're constantly striving to get these loot boxes so that you get cooler stuff than all your friends, and that's pretty much what keeps you playing the game as well as enjoying it as a whole. So although there's not a lot of different game modes and there's a finite number of maps, the game never really gets too boring unless you start getting run over countless times.
Scrub, what are the modes? Do you happen to know the names of the modes? We're not hearing you, Scrub.
Oh, sorry about that. Well, the arcade mode's got a couple modes. There's the weekly brawl that Night Viper was touching base on with the events that they do for each year, each like month or specialty, like
Season.
Christmas or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
season.
season.
So they keep all these events in like one gathered spot called the weekly brawl, but they recently got rid of that to add in 3v3 eliminations and 1v1 eliminations where and mayhem. They also have a
What's
mystery
mayhem? Let's
heroes.
slow down. What's
Mayhem is
mayhem?
what Night Viper was talking about, where there's reduced cooldowns on hero
I see.
specialties. Your health is amplified by like 100%, I believe. So it makes it pretty difficult, to kill people, even though your cooldowns are so ridiculously slowed. So it's actually a great game mode for learning characters, just like this other one called Mystery Heroes, where actually every time you die, it forces you to switch. And you
I
have
like that. I love that idea. Because like you know what it is, I'm a weapons whore. If I
yeah.
do good with a weapon, I pretty much stick to it. I mean, I do this in Battlefield. There's 4 classes, but basically for each class, I have 1 or 2 weapons, and that's all I use. And something like that forces you to play a little bit outside your comfort zone, which I think is a challenge. And it's good to hear that they did this. Now, I can tell you guys both know I didn't really play Overwatch very much, but I have played it a little, and I did play that one mode you were referring to earlier, Viper, which was the package mode where you're moving the package, and I loved it. I really did because of course, I'm a PTFO guy, and I was staying next to the package, and I was actually getting kills, and it was so I definitely see the benefit of that. And the 1v1, or other known as the shootout mode, I think would probably be the best way to describe it. That's great. Are you able to choose any character in a 1v1 like that?
Well, it actually gives you 3 different characters to choose from. That way, if it's like, oh, it's a sniper, it's like, I never play sniper. You have another option, so you don't have to pick that person, which I think is
Now,
great because,
Also,
there's 3 different characters you can choose from. It's like, oh well, I could counter that person by choosing the other character. It's just it adds a new aspect of the game. And after
Viper,
Yes.
you wanted to add?
No, I was thinking about something else. In the 3v3 eliminations, you and your teammates are allowed to select any character, but if you beat the other, like, so it's I think it's best of 3. So if you beat the other team with set characters, you can't pick those characters a second time. So,
Oh,
if I pick character A, on the next go around, I can't pick character A again. I have to pick a different character, as well do
that's
my other
great.
teammates. But that doesn't apply for the team who lost. So, for example, Dominic mentioned Genji before. I mean, Scrub mentioned Genji before. If you win the first round playing Genji, even if you do nothing, you can't pick Genji the next round. So it eliminates people from, just spamming you with the same character, like their only character they're good with.
No,
So it
that's
gives you a
great.
chance to kind of so it makes it more competitive, I think.
It also adds balance too. Okay, a player that's badass at one character, by the time you get to the third round, he's playing characters that he doesn't ordinarily play all the time, so he's not going to be as good.
Right, which it
Yeah.
would be more a game mode to play, once you've pretty much become comfortable with more than a few characters, like you're pretty with a lot of the characters, and you're like, all right, now I want to challenge somebody else who is equally as multiple characters. Like game where you can do just fine if you are good with one character and like that's your character, as long as somebody else doesn't pick it. You could play one character. Like Scrub has a friend who is level 600 and she is exclusively played with one character and she's great with that one character. Don't ask her to play anybody else. But she kicks ass with that one character, and that's fine. This is a game where you have the option to pick multiple, but you can also only play with one if you want, which is cool, I think.
Well, let's give
But
that
I'm
perspective. What level are you, Scrub?
right now I'm level 302. But
Wow,
I wanted
that's
to I wanted to
saying a
put
lot.
I wanted to put something out there. When you play exclusively as one character, yeah, you're gonna dominate as that character. But unfortunately, if someone else picks that character and you're playing quick play or something, and if you're not playing no limits, which allows you to pick more than you can, the whole team can be the same character. If you're not playing that game mode, you can't play them. So you're like, it's like, what are you gonna do, right?
How do
True.
you now? Let me ask you this: in a game where the character's attributes are so important, how does a mode like that, where everybody can be the same character, how does that wind up playing out?
It
It's
could be
actually
pretty
it's
bad.
very interesting.
It
It
could be
really
fun.
it
Yeah, talk to
really
us, Scrub.
de-
Tell us,
it
tell us what do
depends
you
on
think?
it depends on what the character everybody chooses is. Like a character like Zarya, for instance, she puts out a bubble on your teammate and then herself, and whenever somebody takes damage with the bubble around them, they don't actually take the damage, and it winds up charging Zarya's weapon. So if the whole team winds up being Zarya and it's just bubble after bubble, you like can't put any damage on it, and whenever you do, you're just making them stronger, and it's that you just get dominated, and it's really hard to counter something like that.
I mean, I see that would only probably be fun if you had a group of people, but in a random situation, everybody being the same character might be a little bit frustrating.
It's pretty rare too. People like to choose their own characters. Everybody's good as somebody else.
Well,
But
let's.
like a character like Tracer, for instance, everybody's Tracer, right? And there's a character called Winston, and he has an area of origin attack where he shoots like a lightning bolt, and it will hit everybody within your area, and he could jump around and dash around just like Tracer, and he's a fantastic counter to her. So your whole team could be playing as Tracer, and one person on the other team could be Winston or two, and your whole team will just get shut down, and it turns into
That's
uh,
interesting.
this
Right.
really hard game.
Because like I mentioned before, every character for the most part has 1 to 2, maybe even 3 like perfect counters where you're really not going to do well. Now I main as Tracer. She's a character she can pretty much like briefly teleport around the map, and then she has the ability to recall where she pretty much rewinds and she gains all of her health back. Now there's 2 characters in the game, Winston, like Scrub mentioned, and Symmetra, who have weapons that actually like that once you like lock onto a character, it'll follow you around corners and everything and continuously do damage. So, even if I'm zipping around the map and your weapon's locked on me, I can't do anything unless I put significant distance between us, and then Tracer's guns are pretty much useless at a distance, so I can't even touch those characters normally. So
All right, well, this takes us to the obvious next question. We'll start with you, Elite. What's your favorite character?
That's actually a really tough one. I'd actually have to say May, because she can self heal and she projects a barrier, a wall that can block off and hinder the enemy from even moving forward on the objective. So she's very good on choke points. She could freeze enemies, and she also has a long distance attack too. She's one of the few characters that has two different main gun attacks. So she has a spray that freezes people, and then an icicle that does significant damage, especially if you hit him in the head. And I've gotten extremely good at nailing people right in the dome. So
headshots are definitely important in this game.
I definitely dominate with her. She's a very unique character, and like I said, when this poor team composition, like there's no healer or even a tank, she can very easily sit on the payload by herself and dominate the match.
Okay, same question for you, Viper.
Yeah, like I said before, my favorite character, it was funny when I first started playing this game, way back when it first came out, I hated Tracer. I just couldn't get good with her, and now I pretty much dominate. I was playing a competitive match earlier today, and I went 50-9 with her, and just wrecked the other team.
By the way, that's
Um,
really, really good.
with that being said, I kind of want to real quick just talk about every character pretty much has abilities and whatnot. So every character has their primary fire, which you use with the R2 button. Every character's is different. And then every character has two abilities that are used with the L1 and the R1 button. Or they could be different buttons depending on the character. And those are the abilities that will have cooldowns, and that varies greatly depending on what character you're using. Something I'd recommend for people who are thinking about getting into this game and like want to really play it, I think Scrub agrees with me. I would highly recommend playing at least 5-10 minutes with each character, understanding how they work. Because you're not gonna play like I wouldn't play Tracer the same way that Scrub would play May. They're just two completely different characters. They play completely differently, and finding what character fits your play style is important. For example, people who are coming from Call of Duty Battlefield, you're gonna want to pick Soldier, Soldier 76, because he is pretty much a Call of Duty clone. He's all hit firing. He has very low recoil. He has a gun. He can heal himself. Not every character can self heal. There are several health packs scattered throughout the map. I think it's very important early on to kind of try to learn the maps the best you can and understand where those health packs are. Because if you're a
Definitely
character
a
that,
game changer.
yeah, Scrub's very good. He knows where like all of them are, and it's definitely a game changer. Because if you're in an altercation, you go to run away, and you're like, where's the health pack? You're not gonna make it to that health pack before you're getting killed. So that's important to know if
Pretty
you're a
much
character.
true of any first-person shooter, when it
Well,
comes to
yeah,
health.
but like for example, in Call of Duty, all you gotta do is duck behind a crate and wait for your bloody screen, to go away. And Battlefield is, where's the medic? You call
Yeah,
for
yeah, I
help,
get it. I get it. It's
which
different
which
kind of
you
healing.
right, which you can do in Overwatch. You can totally do that. There's characters that primarily heal, and it's important that people who are in the game playing as healers, they're paying attention to that. With that being said, Scrub, do you want to talk about the quick menu that you can bring up with like the need healing and the group up and everything? Because that's important, I feel like.
Hold on. Well, we're on characters right now, so let's stick to the topic.
All right,
All
well,
right.
Okay, now, so just to clarify for everybody, Elite Scrub says that he likes May. That's MEI, not MAY. And Viper says he likes Tracer. Now, we're going to switch tables here, okay? Viper, who is your least favorite character?
oh, there's so many.
And let's get the top one, the one that you
Uh,
absolutely hate. Now, there's not just hate to use, but hate to go against.
all
So
right,
that's actually a twofold answer. So start with
okay.
which one do you hate to use?
Okay. Well, primarily, I really don't like. There are three sniper characters in the game: Widowmaker, Hanzo, and Anna. Anna is actually a support character, so she actually heals people by shooting her sniper rifle, so she's okay. Widowmaker is pretty much your core sniper. She literally has a sniper rifle. I think she's pretty freaking useless. So I don't think I've played with her really at all recently. So I think she's garbage. She's really she can't do anything for your team. She's the game is objective based, and she has to stay at a distance. So she's not helping your team by standing 400 feet away trying to pick people off. With that being said, people in the higher rankings, dominate with her, but I think she's absolutely terrible. Now, a character I hate to go against probably have to be Roadhog. He is this big, massive, pig-looking dude who has a pretty brutal shotgun. Now I play as Tracer. Tracer has the lowest health of any character in the game, and Roadhog has this hook. So he literally throws his hook, and if he hits you with it, he pulls you in to like 2 feet from him, and then pop, and he just pops you with a shotgun shell. I'd say 85% of the characters, you're dying in one shot with that. So pretty much if you get hooked by Roadhog, you're no saving you. So I hate going against him because he pretty much just wrecks me every time.
Jeez,
So
he's
yeah,
an old guy too. I'm looking at his bio. He's 48 years old. Holy shit.
yeah, he's a funny character to play with.
All
He's funny.
right, Elite, same question for you, man. Okay, first of all, which one do you dislike to play with, to game with, and which one do you hate to go against?
I really hate playing as Widowmaker because I feel so useless because her gun actually does zero like little to no damage unless you're sitting there and charging and you're just sitting there looking at your scope all day. It's really boring. Like the whole point of the game is to run with your team and play as a team. And when you're basically told you have to sit back and look through this scope from mad far, it's boring to me.
Let me just stress this to you guys, okay? You just heard that coming from a guy that plays as a sniper.
Yep, I do play as a
Every
sniper.
game, he's a sniper first. So
And I gave
that's
both of them
saying
a
a
shot.
lot.
It's a completely different game from Battlefield in Modern Warfare even. And I know Modern Warfare's maps, not Modern Warfare, Call of Duty. I know Call of Duty's maps aren't very big, but sniping can still be really useful in those games. But in this game, I just feel like you could be so many other characters. You could be a support character and do so much more for your team, even if you're not getting kills. And I just find it really hard to just do anything with her. Like her specials are literally just she shoots out like a trip mine which poisons them for like 30 damage, which is nothing. And like her special is you can see people through walls and like that's great and all, but how much does that really do for your team?
Well, it would be good if that information she saw through walls was transmitted to the other players, but
It
It
is. It's
is.
it's
It
giving
is.
it
it
all your
is.
whole
Oh,
team.
okay. So, all right, that's a slight advantage.
But it's
All
but it's
right,
brief and it really just doesn't do as much as you would hope.
who do you
Y-
least like to go against? Who do you like to least like to
I
face?
really gotta think about this for a second. You know what? I'd have to say it's this new character called Sombra. And she's really hard to play. She's got a lot going on. She could teleport. She throws down this beacon that she can then teleport to later. She can turn herself invisible, which makes her faster and completely immune to well, she's not immune. You can still hit her, but she's you can't see her. Literally, there's no indication of where she is. Um, and she can hack you, meaning that you can't use any of your specials or your utilities, which make your character. You know what I'm saying? So she can randomly appear in front of you, make you useless to a sense, and then kill you. And I know she's a really hard character to play, but now that I'm like level 300 something, I'm running into a lot of better players and people who main as these characters and only play as them. And when I find a Sombra main, there's nothing else that gets me more heated than having someone appear in front of me and just slay me.
Now, that character just came out recently.
Yeah, she's a new addition. I believe Anna Orissa, which is a tank. Anna's the sniper that James had mentioned, and then there is Sombra, the hacker. Sombra's actually the villain. There's a bit of a story behind all the characters of Overwatch, and Sombra is the mastermind villain.
Yeah, she definitely has got an evil look to her.
Yeah,
And let me
she's an
ask you
evil
this,
person.
guys. Now, we were a couple of weeks back. We were doing this for Rainbow Six Siege, and there are female characters in that. Do you guys have any problem with these characters being female? I mean, is it just as a sexist question? I know it's not necessarily a gaming
No,
question.
Not at all. Not even in the slightest. Actually,
I
most
think
of the
if
female
anything,
characters are good.
it actually encourages female gamers who don't really have an outlet for first person shooters. Like James had mentioned, my friend, her name's Clisty. She purely plays as Diva, who is a female character tank, and she just loves her because she feels that it's her personality and she's a useful character, and this is like the only first person shooter she plays because there's female characters in it.
Yeah, all right, that's good. All right, so like since we started here today, we've been talking about squad composition since the beginning, and both Elite and Viper have indicated that squad composition is a key to victory. And so, what I want to do is just elaborate a little bit more about that and how to go about looking at squad composition. Viper, I know you had some things you wanted to share with this regard. Why don't you tell us what do you think are the good and bad things about squad composition, and what things should people look out for?
Well, in order to understand squad composition, you have to understand how the characters are broken up. So they're broken up into four categories: attack, defense, tank, and support. So support are primarily going to be your healers or so your people who are going to support you. Symmetra, she puts up turrets and she's primarily going to stick back. She puts up a teleporter, which can be huge. That could be the difference between, you winning or losing the game because there is a spawn delay, and when you're defending, you have to run pretty far at times, depending on the map, to get back to the point. So and then tanks are much big brutes with tons of health. They're gonna put out high damage, and they're usually pretty tough to kill because they have so much health and everything. So you're primarily gonna want to support them because they're gonna change the tide of the game. So I think in order to have a balanced team, depending obviously whether if you're attacking or defending, you're gonna want, if you're attacking, you're gonna want a few attack characters. You're gonna definitely want at least at bare minimum one support character of any variety, and you pretty much want at least one required, with potentially probably being better to have two tanks on your team because they're gonna, absorb all of the damage, and that you're gonna just run behind them and they're gonna lead the way. And if you don't have a tank and the other team does, you're gonna struggle. And it's understanding. All right, this team's using X character and he's wrecking us. So who's his counter? And adjusting mid game is important at times. If you're playing your character and your character's counter is on the other team, and you're not gonna do good, so you should change. I think Scrub would probably agree in that regard.
Scrub, what's your impression on that?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question is with regards to squad composition, what do you think are the best things to have, and what are the one things that you want to look out for?
I'd have to agree with James on the fact that there should definitely be a minimum of one healer, and definitely two tanks because those are your meat shields, and like I said before, like the tanks are really useful. They have serious abilities that are crazy good for your team composition. Like there's Reinhardt, for instance. He's literally a huge shield, and he's only good when you're running as a team. So like an objective based game like Payload, like you were talking about before, that's one of your favorite game modes, right? That he's just so useful. It's
Well,
very important to have
how is Winston
DPS. Winston
versus?
Winston's Winston's good if, like, so say there's the healer Mercy that I was talking about. She's a fantastic healer, very efficient, and she can also do damage buffing. But it's really hard to get her because she has a utility which allows her to dash to any player that's alive or dead. So you could be shooting at her and she's right in front of you, and the next second she's across the map to somebody else who's obviously going to be helping her, and defending her because she can only heal. So it's
So,
very Winston is extremely useful when taking out mercies because they're always hiding behind characters, and Winston's electric shock goes through characters and will hit the mercy behind the character, and he's very useful when you're getting dominated by a mercy combo.
A very
well,
good AoE attacker.
what are the four classes again? So you have
Uh,
tank,
There's
healer.
tank, healer, attack, and defense. And when you're defending, you normally want to have 1 to 2 defense, or maybe even a defense and an attack hero because of the DPS the attack heroes,
Well, like
allow.
if you were in the package mode, the way I would probably assemble it is two tanks, two defense, one attack. Does that sound about right?
No.
Well, I mean, it really actually it's all about, your team. Like, people are good with other characters. You don't necessarily need to have, two defense characters. You could have, three attack characters and not even have a single defense character, as long as you have the two tanks and the healer. You know what I'm saying?
Now,
So
when
it's
you
it's,
when
it's
you
really
come
about
into,
how well your team plays with those characters.
I agree. When you come into a game and you're getting set up to choose your character, do you have an opportunity to see what the other team is choosing?
No,
No.
that's actually a complete mystery, and I think that that's fantastic. That's a great aspect of the game because it prevents from people to counter your character, and you'd be sitting there in the main menu switching your character like 6 or 7 times if you knew who the other team was going to be.
That's good. I mean, now in game, you can only switch your character after a death.
That's not necessarily true. You do have to go back to the spawn, so as long as you're in the spawn point, like after death, or if you run there, you can change your character.
Alrighty. Any other points that you or recommendations that either one of you'd like to make with regards to squad composition?
Um, if you don't have a healer, be a healer. It's
I
really it's super useful and it's very necessary to have a healer. And the healers aren't hard to play, except for the exception of Anna because she's a sniper. That's hard in any game, if you ask me. But yeah, like they're super useful, and you need to have a healer. If you don't have a healer or any support character, like you can play Symmetra. Symmetra's so easy. As long as the person's in front of you, like 10 to 15 feet away from you, you're gonna hit them. Her beam follows people around walls, like James has said, Night Viper had said, and the teleporter's huge is a game changer, and support characters can change the tide of the game, and it's very useful and very necessary.
Viper,
I'd
your
agree.
opinion?
I'd agree. I think team composition is probably one of the most important parts of the game. But with that being said, it's important to have a composition of a team while playing with characters that you're confident in. So let's say you walk into a game and somebody's on mic, they're like, "Oh, we need a Reinhardt," and you're the only one who didn't pick a character, but you suck as Reinhardt. Don't be Reinhardt. Let somebody else be Reinhardt.
Yeah.
Because if you be Reinhardt to even the suck as Reinhardt, you will lose. I think it's
Yeah, yeah.
important. It's important to help make that team composition equal while playing within your means. So if you're somebody you're like, listen, man, I just started playing this game. I'm only good with Soldier 76 and Reaper, who are easy characters to play with. Somebody else, play with that character because if you try to be a hero and step up and you know make the team composition better by playing as somebody that your team needs, but you're not good with that character, it's actually going to wind up hurting you in the long run because, let me look at this character list right here. So for example, Scrub mentioned Zarya, for example. Zarya can be, if you run into somebody who's good with Zarya, she could literally change the tide of the game. You won't be able to touch their team, and she'll be so buffed. It's great. But if you don't know what you're doing, she's useless, and you're pretty much playing man down at that point.
Yeah, but there's a counter to Zara too, right?
There are many counters to Zarya. But the thing is if you don't understand how she like, you have to know how to play as her, and if you're not doing that correctly, you're just a big target.
All
you
right,
know.
well
So
let's talk about something from a new perspective here for a second. So I'm new to the game and I want to pick up Overwatch with you guys and what characters should I look for to
you
start out with?
can I start on this?
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to put this out there. Whenever you start playing Overwatch, and this is for anybody out there, like James Night Viper had said, it's extremely important to play every character because if you don't know how every character works, you're not going to know how to approach them. Every character plays differently, and you need to, play play against them differently because of how they play. So, for instance, there's a character Reaper. You may have never seen this character before, and you're playing a match, and then you get close to him, and you realize he's got two shotguns, and he can, become transparent and invincible. You go ahead and you go up against him, you get the drop on him, right? And you get him down to no health. He goes invincible, turns around, and just utterly devastates you with his shotguns, and you'd be frustrated. It's really important to play every character, learn their playing styles, and then
Yeah, but
play
see,
according to that.
yeah, well that's great and I kind of get that, but here's the thing. You got to try and imagine for 1 second you're a new player, you just loaded the game up, you've never played before. It doesn't matter which mode you're going to play, and you need that first character. Now, what you're saying is you have to
Ah,
learn every character, but at the same time, which character should you start to learn
Well,
first?
All right,
all right.
all right. So there's a few characters that I feel are fairly easy to learn off the bat, and that's Soldier 76. Winston is fairly easy to learn. Um, Reaper,
So we have a
That's
May.
good.
tank, and we have an assault.
Oh yeah, I'll tell the categories each one. Soldier 76 is assault. Reaper is also assault, and let's see, that's about it for those are the. Oh, also Tracer's assault. There's support characters that are extremely easy to learn, and that's Symmetra and Lucio, because Lucio's self healing is very good. So if you're getting shut down, your team doesn't have a healer. He's really great. He could do speed boosts and everything. It takes maybe, I would say, like 15 minutes to learn Lucio, and he's a
All right,
fantastic
good,
healer.
good.
Now there's also the tanks. So you have Winston for a tank, and I'd say Roadhog for tanks because his hook and his shotgun are just unbelievable. Um,
Okay.
and for defense, I'd have to say May is fairly good. And then there's
Bastion.
Bastion. Bastion is basically a turret, and he can self heal. He's very good for new players, if in my opinion. He puts out a lot of DPS. I even play him on attack sometimes, even though he's a defense character. You set yourself up on the payload, and nobody's coming close to that thing. You know.
Very good, very good. Viper, do you pretty much agree with Elite over there on that?
I disagree in a couple of regards, but I pretty much mostly agree. I think if you're a new player and you hop into Overwatch, there's a lot to kind of take in at once. There's so many different characters and they all play so differently. I think, like Scrub had mentioned before with his friend Clisty, where she kind of saw herself in a sense in the character Diva. I mean, all of these characters are totally different. They actually all represent a different geographical region. They all look totally different. They actually have their own personalities. And I think, if you want to hop in this game, take a look at them, maybe connect with a little bit. Like I really liked Lucio in the beginning because he's like this real chill black dude. He's like Jamaican. He like zooms around walls and he's like, yeah, man, everybody like let's be free and peace and love everybody, like all that crap. And I just thought he was like a cool guy, and I just enjoyed playing with him because his character personality was just so, I don't know, enjoyable. You got like a badass cowboy, you got a ninja, a big gorilla, like these characters
So
are somebody.
you're saying more choose the character for fun factor.
Well, because if you're just hopping into the game for the first time, you're gonna be when you're playing in the beginning, you're gonna be grouped up with people who are around your level. So everybody in the game's gonna be like, oh, Overwatch, what's happening? Like, what's and So just kind of getting a feel for it, and I think if you make that connection with a character, it's gonna make it that much more fun for you. So I think that's probably a big factor when you first hopping in. But I definitely agree with Scrub that Soldier 76 and Reaper definitely the easiest attack. I think Bastion is by far the easiest defense hero to learn right away. I'd say Mercy is probably the easiest healer because literally she has a big staff that heals people. It's like you really don't get much more straightforward than that. That's literally all she's there to do. And then tank, I'd actually probably disagree. I'd say Diva is the easiest tank to learn. She has tons of health. She doesn't have to reload when she shoots. Um, and she has a shield
Oh
that she
yeah.
can put up, so she can deflect incoming bullets. So I think she's gonna learn. Also, she's like a little girl in a big mech suit. So her mech suit gets destroyed. She actually pops out of it, and then she's like this little girl running around with this. Um, so she's pretty easy to be good with in the beginning. So I definitely say she'd be your best tank to pick up right away.
Well, that's interesting perspective, guys. Let's switch gears just a little bit. Let's talk about the maps in general. Um, Now, the base game came out with how many maps, Elite? Do you remember?
You have to give
It
me a
was
second
four,
here.
right?
I was more than that, maybe eight.
Well, there's been what, one DLC
Well,
since the game came out?
actually, there's let's see, there's Hollywood, and then it actually depends on what type of game mode you're playing. So if you're playing the objective point game that Night Viper had mentioned before, where you take a point, it's like domination. There's only 1 point, and you take it, and you have to get it to 100. Those maps actually have it's one region, and there's 3 maps, so you could play a different map, every round of the game. Um,
Well, all right. So there's one region and three maps within the region. That's it.
Yes, and unless it's like payload, like that's just it's one huge long map. So I
Okay,
have to
and
say between all of them, there's probably like
There's
9 or 10 maps.
there's 14 total maps.
Or
all right. Now, are there any more maps coming out for it in the future? I mean, you had mentioned earlier they give a lot of content away.
all of
Yeah,
their content is for free.
everything's
Any new
free.
map that comes out, you just have to play the game mode that it's for.
So
Let's talk
it
about the map design a little bit. I mean, is there much verticality in the maps? Because it's
Absolutely.
some of the maps it looks like it's more than others.
yeah,
Well, yeah,
definitely.
that's definitely a given. All the domination maps there's not really as much vertical platforms for you to be on top of, but they're definitely there. But on those payload maps, it's absolutely all over the place, and that gives every character an opportunity to be somewhere else. There's actually one map that I would like to mention, and that's Ilios, which is like this like waterfront map, and that's the pretty much the exception. There's a lot of different platforms on different levels, and it's definitely a very unique map, and it's you have to play it differently. You have to be aware of your surroundings because you could be getting hit from a sniper and have no idea.
Can
Is
I
that your?
bring up a
Yeah, go ahead, Viper.
Um, well, he just reminded me because Alios is a very big map for this. In addition to your normal lay of the land, certain maps will have areas where you can actually do elemental kills in the sense where you actually can knock a character off the map and kill them. And Ilios is huge for that. There's actually a huge pit in the middle on one of the areas you play in, and actually the whole border of the map for the most part is a danger zone. The character we mentioned before, Lucio, actually has alternate fire where he shoots out like this blast, and it's the main idea of it is to push people back. It's really good for when you're playing control point where you can actually knock people off the point. But it's perfect for this kind of map where you can actually knock them into or off the map, where these elemental kill areas are available. So that's something to keep in
What's an
mind.
elemental kill? What do you mean? An
Well,
environmental kill?
you yeah, environmental. Sorry, I meant environment. Yeah, so you're using the environment to kill a character.
Is that the map that you were freaking out on the other day? This one character kept knocking you off.
Yeah, probably. I'm gonna say
Actually, he
definitely.
was he was using Tracer, and Tracer teleports, and he actually teleported himself off the map and
Several
killed
times.
himself.
Yeah, I bet you that was good. I'm actually looking at some of the maps now on the map on the complete list. So the way it is three assaults, which are Hamara, Temple of Anubis, Volsca Industries. Then there's Escort, which is the one we're talking about moving the package. Those are Dorado, Route 66, Watchpoint, Gibraltar. Then
You
there's
got
a
it.
Salt Escort, which is Itchawide,
Hackenwald.
Hollywood, Ackenwald, thank you for the correction, Kings Row, and Nubani. Nubani looks kind of epic.
I like
Then you
Nabani.
have Control, which is the center point mode we were talking about. Ilios, the Lejang Tower, Nepal, and
Lijiang.
Oasis. Okay. Arcade is Black Forest, Castillo, Echo Point, Antarctica, and Necropolis. So,
Propolis.
I mean, and then it shows redesigned sub maps. Now, what do you guys know about those maps? Are those strictly for competitive?
No. So those maps you mentioned, the most recently, those maps are only used for 3v3 and 1v1 because they're smaller maps. So,
Yes. And in addition to that, the maps are completely symmetrical, so there's like never really an advantage to being spawned on one side or the other.
yeah. Also, that reminded me of something is very, I think, is pretty neat about Overwatch. When you're playing the game when you first spawn in, right from the spawn, there's actually this blue line that actually takes you to the objective. So if you're like, oh man, I'm on Dorado, I've never been here before, and you're like, where do I go? It's like there's actually a little line that's like, hey man, this is where the objective's at. You don't have to follow it, but if you never played the map before, at least it'll give you an idea where to go.
Well, it looks to me by looking at these maps, it looks like they went with like a theme, and then they have like which gives them the set pieces for the different modes, and then they can change things around. It looks awesome.
Well, like I said, every character represents a different geographical region, and these maps will represent those regions as well. So, like Route 66 is like in the southwest of America. Kings Row is in Britain. Eichenwald is in Germany. Volskaya Industry is obviously in Russia. Temple of Anubis is in Egypt, and there are characters in the game that kind of come from these countries of origin. So it's kind of cool.
Let me ask you this. We'll start with you, Elite. Um, as far as map design goes, do you think that it's perfect? Do you think it could be better? Do you think is there something that you would want to see? Now, take this as a general question, thinking of all the maps in general, or is there a particular map that you think is bad?
In all honesty, they're all very unique and they all work differently they all work better for different characters. So I think that when it comes to the map design, I think that they did a very fantastic job. Blizzard did a really great job of adding diversity with different levels and different areas where they're open or maybe even a bottleneck. Um, but if I really had to, pick a map where I feel like they really, kind of didn't do too well on, I'd have to say Volskaya Industries because there's a just a ridiculous choke point, and if you have a team that's playing pretty well, it's actually nearly impossible to even get past it. The wall is just too much of a choke point, I feel, and that I just can't get past them. And they do have one flank route, but there's a huge pit of death that's like ice water that you can't touch that, otherwise you die. That would be an elemental death, and only a few characters can get over to that flank. So if you're not good with those characters, you're very limited to options, and you're pretty much forced to go through that bottleneck and get snuffed. I just feel like it's just not as character friendly as most of the other maps. I had mentioned the character Genji, and he's allowed to climb up walls and everything, and he's very versatile when it comes to scaling the map. And I think that they really did a fantastic job with his wall climbing and everything. And if you wanted to just get around and try to explore the map, he's definitely a great character, and he really he has like a very like extensive options of escape routes, and I think they just did a great job with that, honestly. So the maps, I really could not complain. They did a great job at creating diversity and for different characters.
Viper, same question.
No, I definitely agree. That's something that I really enjoy about Overwatch is all the maps like you said are totally unique. They're diverse. They kind of give you a feel of what region you're in. I think they capture that really well. And I get where Scrub is coming from with that choke point, but I think in this game specifically, choke points are important. It's a test. Can you get through this, or can you defend this area? And that's where, like you said, where just play better on certain maps. It's important. If you get into a checkpoint and you're doing really well with one character, this other character might physically not be able to get through this choke point, and it might make you want to kind of think about how you're going to approach this next area because you're like, oh, this choke point's coming up. I should probably change to a character that's got like a shield or something, something like that. Where I think it's important to understand team composition in reference to the map you're on.
All right. Well, yeah, back to that same theme of team composition. I guess what you're saying, you both are saying is the maps are balanced for all the characters' benefit.
Correct.
Yeah.
You also find that, when you start mixing around with all the characters, you'll notice that, what? I do really well with Mei on this map. And, like, but I do really bad with Genji, so it makes you kind of adapt to the game itself, which is cool, I think. You see that in every other game, though. If you're playing, for example, the new Battlefield expansion, it's pretty much close quarters. You're not really gonna run a scout on that map because they're all close quarters, and this game has that as well.
Now, is there news for Overwatch 2, or is there going to be a drop of a big content drop in the future that you guys are aware of?
Doubt it.
Well, actually, I get all my information from like word of mouth, so I'll be like talking to people in lobbies. I do believe that they have a forum and they do let you know when they're releasing new content, but you can expect any holiday that's coming up for there to be either a new game mode or a new character or lots of new skins.
So they're just going to build off this game.
Yeah, like
Absolutely, and they
it
said they're going to
was.
support it for quite a while, and I think that they're going to release a lot of free content. So if you're worried about DLCs, this is definitely the game for you because there isn't.
Well,
Yeah,
I know they're presenting it for esports, and it's pretty good indication that it's already started. So, if it gets picked up in esports, we could be seeing Overwatch around for a long, long time.
Oh, well, it's already in
yeah,
esports.
it's already very big in the Asian countries that are like really big with like League of Legends and World of Warcraft. Like Overwatch is probably number two to League of Legends, and I think League of Legends
Yeah.
is the most competitive game in the world right now.
All
But
right. Well, let's kind of bring this to conclusion here. We're running out of time, but I wanted to first give you guys some ideas of what to do as far as when you want to get grouped up. Now, both Elite and Night Viper are available on PlayStation Network. You can send them friend requests. Their full PSN IDs are here in the video, so you can see it as it is, and send them a friend request to get grouped up with them. Uh, I think that you guys got a good overview of what Overwatch is. I don't play it, I haven't gotten into it because frankly, these two guys got the damn disc all the time, so I don't really get it. As a matter of fact, I think Viper has it electronically, so I haven't had a chance to really climb into it, and I'm playing like four other games right now myself. So, but I think what we see is a lot of similarities between as far as TLN members with Overwatch and games like Rainbow Six Siege and even Destiny, where it's a small niche group of players playing a small a squad based game where teamwork is important. All three of those titles require that.
um,
So, I think that we could see a lot of other people get grouped up with one another in this game and still enjoy it. And for those of you out there in TLN or not in TLN and want to join up, Viper, hold off on the vaping.
oh, I didn't know you guys could hear that. Sorry.
Oh my
if you
God, you have a fidget
if
spinner over
you
there
want to
too?
find if you want to find people to group up with in this game that are going to work with you with a mic and play the right way, at least you got some people to look out for. So as a closing, let's start with you, Elite, the Elite Scrub. Uh, is there anything else you'd like to add, or to wrap things up for this podcast?
Absolutely. I wanted to talk about the group up system. The game is very great when you play with other people, but when you're first starting out and you see your friends have been playing it for a while, check out their level, please, because if you're like a new player and you go and you play with somebody who's like me, level 300 or something, the game is very good with team matchup. So if you play with me and I'm level 300, I'd like to say that I'm fairly good at the game. On the other team, there might be four guys that are the same level as me that have been playing it as long. And for a new player to go up against somebody who's experienced, almost been playing the game for a year, you're gonna have a really hard time. So when you first start out the game, I know it's rough. Just try to play by yourself or find a friend who is relatively close to the same level. Try to stay away from those level 200s and 300s when you start off in the game. Level 100 is okay. When I started playing it, but I noticed that a Night Viper had he was playing on Xbox for a while and he had repicked up the game for PlayStation. And when he had played with me, he was having a really tough time. And then even after the fact, even when I had stopped playing with him, because he had held his own with people my level, the game starts to realize, all right, this guy's he's a pretty good gamer. Let me put him up against with people that are the same level as me, and you're gonna have a hard time. But definitely watch who you group up with, because it can change the game for you. The game will team you up against people that are on your skill level. So if you're beating people that are a higher level than you on your skill level, they're gonna start matching up against those people.
Viper, same question.
Um, in closing, I think the only other thing I would want to mention is Overwatch has this really cool thing where I believe if you hold down the down arrow key, it brings up this little menu, like this quick menu, where you can do like emotes or a voice line or whatever, which are things that you can collect. But there's also a very good useful aspect to it where you can actually, if you don't have a mic, you can be like, hey, group up with me. I need healing, stuff like that. That's very important to use because if you're running around as the healer and you're like, oh my God, there's so much happening, and you don't know where your tank is and your tank's like about to die and you're like, yo, I need health, but you don't tell the healer that, they can't do their job right. So sometimes if you're like running around like I need health, like what's going on? If you just pop like I need healing, that you'll turn around and your mercy will come flying over and bestow health upon you. And I think that's
All
awesome.
right,
And
so
this
that
game
quick,
is
that's a
what's
quick
up?
chat menu is what you're
Pretty
talking about.
much. And I know Scrub uses it all the time, and I think it's an important thing that might often be overlooked, and it can actually be a pretty big game changer.
Let me
Um,
make one suggestion though, with reference to what Scrub was talking about as far as grouping up. The other aspect that you guys that are higher level can do is you can make an alternate profile and still group up with that guy, help that guy group, gain his level. Then you have
mhm.
a lower level character that you can play around with. You don't really care; it's not your main character, but you can help get that new player up to a certain level, or at least to a point where he can play with your regular level character. Just as an alternate suggestion. All right. Well, this has been pretty fun. I mean, I enjoy hearing about new games that I don't necessarily play very often, but I know a lot about. So this was kind of fun and entertaining and gave me some information. The next Force Feedback is going to be on one or two titles. Either is going to be on PlanetSide 2 or Rocket League. In the
Ooh.
future, we have also talked about doing one for GTA, but I don't know if that title really justifies it. I think everybody knows about GTA, but Rocket League is an interesting thing here, and guys got me to get back into it a little bit, and I kind of had some fun with it, and it's a learning curve. But we're gonna do a force feedback on that and PlanetSide if I can get the leader of PlanetSide, the two leaders, choke on it, and Bismack to join me. We'll do on PlanetSide next time. All right, so for TLN, this has been Rocket Rob 99, and with me today has been Night Viper 122 and the Elite Scrub, and our featured title was Overwatch. Tune in next time, and thanks for joining us for Force Feedback. All right, we'll see you next time out on the battlefield.
Have a good one.